All right, welcome. It is 5 o'clock on January 9th, 2023. Welcome to a new year of your Cape Girardeau City Government. We will begin tonight's meeting with the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Tonight's invocation is by Deacon Mark Kiblinger of St. Vincent Catholic Church. Thank you, Deacon.
Happy New Year, council members, and to the citizens of Cape Girardeau. We'll begin our year listening to from Holy Scripture, from the book of the prophet Jeremiah. For I know well the plans I have in mind for you, plans for your welfare and not for your woe, so as to give you a future of hope. When you call on me and come to me and pray to me, I will listen to you. When you look for me, you will find me. Yes, when you seek me with all your heart, I will let you find me. The blessing that I leave with you today comes from the book of Numbers. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. Almighty God, I pray your blessing upon our city leaders this day and every day throughout this new year. May the Holy Spirit guide your discussions, your deliberations, and your decisions. We make this prayer through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have no study session tonight, nor any presentations. Do we have any communications or reports from City Council? Anyone wish? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to make an announcement. The When Pigs Fly event, indoor barbecue contest will be at the Shopping Center this Saturday. World famous Myron Nixon will be there as well.
All right.
A bunch of celebrities within that segment. Great event. And then I believe that this is better. It's not on. Hello. Doesn't matter.
Speak loud.
Isn't the fire and fire versus police versus some other fire departments? So last year the fire department won. All right. So, good luck again to fire and police. That should be a great event.
All right. Awesome. Anyone else? Anything to share? No? Okay. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Nate.
Yeah, this is our first meeting since the holidays, so I hope everyone had a happy holidays, very Merry Christmas and a New Year. We started off the holiday season a little unlike we would have hoped to from a city with 2 winter weather events moved in right beforehand with extreme cold and a substation that caught on fire. And so I would like to thank all of the city staff that were involved, from the fire department to the public works department to the people who worked with Ameren. It greatly affected a large percentage of our population at an inopportune time. Not like there's ever an opportune time, but an inopportune time right at the holidays. And so I want to thank you guys for all your work, working quickly with the Ameren, working very thoroughly and getting it back up to speed, as well as still blading our roads and picking up our trash. I've told multiple people, there's a lot of things that got canceled, a lot of things got rescheduled, bumped back. I have commercial waste services at properties that they didn't come pick it up and they were going to delay it for a week. And yet I put my trash can down by the curb and City Public Works was there and picked it up right on the day that they were supposed to. So right on schedule. So thank you guys for all the great work you do and all the people who put in the very long hours on that Christmas Eve and the day before. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have several items for discussion. Is there anyone in the audience here to appear for an advisory board position? If so, please come to the podium and share what you have. No one tonight? Okay, thank you. Mr. Young, would you please give us the consent agenda review? I'm sorry, is that Dr. Haskin? Forgive me.
Yes. Yes, Council, we have several items for review tonight. I guess we'll start with number 5, release of a performance agreement with Highlands for the Highlands Park Crossing, Phase 1. Another release for Highlands Hopper Crossing, Phase 2. We have an acceptance of improvements, authorized the final payment as well for Lieutenant Kelly for equipment for the College Street Improvement Project. Number 8, we have a request to accept public sewer improvements for the Cuba Financial. And of course, number 9, acceptance of the water system improvements for McDonald's at 1701 North King Highway.
Thank you, Dr. Haskin. We will now move into regular session and start with our roll call. Ms. Conrad.
Mr. Bliss,
Here.
Mr. Guard,
Here.
Mayor Kinder,
Here.
Mr. Preston, absent, Ms. Randall, here, Mr. Thomas,
Here.
Ms. Truxell.
Here. All right, thank you. We have, Council, we have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved, Mr. Guard.
Second.
Thank you, Tamika. I have several items I wanted to put forward in motions to amend our agenda. One would be to remove item 4 from the consent agenda and move that down into regular discussion. Would there be a motion? I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
Second, Ms. Truxell, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor then of removing number 4 from the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that is happening. Thank you. And then secondly, we will be moving into closed section later tonight if the council approves such, and need to restate the rationale there. It should read under the bullet point, under the rationale for closed session, pursuant to the revised statutes of Missouri, section 610.021, paragraphs 1 and 3, not 1 and 2. I'd like to make that motion to amend. Is there a second? Mr. Bliss, any discussion? All those in favor then of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That carries. Is there any other amendment to the agenda? All right, hearing none. All those then in favor of the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we have the agenda before us. First item is the public hearing. I will open this public hearing to consider a request to rezone property located at 2854 Cape LaCroix Road from R1, Single Family Suburban Residential District, to R4, Medium Density Multifamily Residential District. Is there anyone here tonight to speak to that public hearing? Yes, please state your name, please, and where you're from and
Sure.
what you got.
Yeah, Jeremy Ferguson at 945 Carew right here in Cape. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all tonight on this matter. My wife and I, Raylena Ferguson, again, my name is Jeremy Ferguson, have purchased this property in hopes to add some high quality apartments in this area. We personally own executive property management and have enjoyed a great reputation of managing and owning some really nice property here in Cape Girardeau and making sure that it's always a betterment to our community. On this piece of property, we are asking for zoning to be changed from R1 to R4 so we can accomplish this. And we believe it would be a great asset to the area to add, again, just more high quality living. It'll be 1 and 2 bedroom units. And at this point, we're still determining just kind of the status of how we will do it and what it will look like. But we think it'll probably be 2 to 3 buildings, no more than 2 stories tall. And so we're just asking for that rezoning so that we can accomplish this mission.
And this item is under new ordinances for tonight as well. It will be debated then and further explained, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Is anyone else in the public here to speak to this public hearing? Yes. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Carrie Walker. We live a mile down the road on County Road 620. And we are very concerned with the traffic at the intersection of W 620 and Cape LaCroix Road. The apartment buildings would be in that corner, and there's the creek right behind it with visibility coming around the corner. Right now, we've experienced accidents there. We have many people don't stop thoroughly at the stop sign, and they just come right around the corner. There's been probably the last 5 or 7 years an increase in traffic coming in off of W and 620 with all the neighborhoods. Touchdown, there's 2 neighborhoods down 620. Anything coming in off of LaSalle seems to feed in right at that spot. And if you go further down Cape LaCroix at the roundabout, anytime between like 7:45 or 8:15 in the morning, we will have traffic backed up, especially during the academic year, to Linwood Baptist Drive right there. And so when you're considering all this, I would suggest and encourage some kind of review of infrastructure, the size, the height, how are they going to go in and out around the 2 corners? And we've already got a lot of people feeding in that way without, if it's 18 units times 4 people a unit, that's a lot more cars, a lot more traffic, a lot more buildings. So we're concerned with safety and traffic. In addition, if I heard right, that was supposed to be a residential single family spot. Is that correct? When you purchased it?
No, I mean, we purchased the land, but
How was it zoned first?
It is currently zoned R1, single family.
Single family,
The
okay.
rezoning is to R4.
Okay, so you
medium
knew
density
that when you
multifamily.
purchased it, that it was R1, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And when did you purchase that?
I don't remember the date, honestly.
Within the last few years?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so please just take that into consideration. It's going to be, we think, a driving hazard, especially if you drive out that way. It's on this little street. I don't know what it's going to do to the Cape LaCroix Creek either. It backs up all the way to our property and it crosses over our bridge, and we have to wait occasionally to get in and out of our property. So that's another factor. And you've got it on multiple places on 622. I think it still crosses the road over 620 out by is it Whispering Oaks neighborhood? It'll flood down there too. But thank you for your time.
And we have our city planner here tonight to speak further to some of those issues. Thank you. Anyone else regarding this public hearing? Yes, Nick?
I'm not sure if I'm coming, if what I'm saying is in the right order, what I'm speaking about.
We'll find out.
Right.
Okay.
Just say, stop. for
Okay.
1 second. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miss Nancy, and I'm coming to you on behalf of my supervisor, Tag, the Almighty God. I have lived in the Cape area for almost 60 years of my adult life.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss
And-
Nancy, if I may interrupt you. Are you speaking to the issue pertaining to 2854 Cape LaCroix Road?
No, that's
Okay.
why I wanted to find out.
Okay, well, now is my chance to tell you, stop.
Okay.
And I have you on the list for later in the meeting
Okay.
to speak to general issues, not on the agenda.
I didn't see anything after public hearing, and I thought,
Forgive me.
well,
No, I have you, Nancy Robinson, is that correct?
Newsbaum
Robinson, excuse me. And so.
Mhm.
I-
Well,
I-
we'll start this again later.
Great. Okay, looking forward to it. All right, thank you. Okay, pertaining to this property and the rezoning, is there anyone else? Okay, thank you. I will close that public hearing then. Next, we have the consent agenda. Mr. Young, would you please read that?
Bill 22-186, an ordinance approving the record plat of Cape West Crossing East. Bill 22-186, an ordinance approving the record plat of Cape West Crossing East.
That's it? That's the only thing on the consent agenda?
The only thing to be read, correct?
Oh, the only thing to be read. That's a new one. Okay. All right. Council, we have a consent agenda before us, the briefest possibly in history. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That agenda carries. Thank you. We have one item removed from the consent agenda. It is number 4, to set a public hearing on a request to rezone property located at 2530 Marcia K Drive from R1 Single Family Suburban Residential District to NC Neighborhood Commercial District. Mr. Shrimplin, can we have you come forward, please, to discuss? Well, and can I just state, I asked to have this taken off the consent agenda because it seemed a little different than typical consent agenda items. So if you could just clearly let everyone know what exactly we're approving tonight, and it seemed to be a bit of a back and forth about.
Sure. Good evening. So this is a rezoning request. It's to rezone property at 2530 Marcia K Drive from R1 Single Family Suburban Residential District to NC Neighborhood Commercial District. Public hearing on this request was held at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last month. During that public hearing, there were several folks that spoke in opposition to the request. After the public hearing was closed, the commission voted on a recommendation to you, and they unanimously voted to recommend denial. So under the zoning code, when the commission recommends denial of a rezoning, the council may, at its own option by motion, set a public hearing, or they can, what's called filing the recommendation of denial, or basically accepting the recommendation and denying the request. If that happens, the applicant has 10 days to either in writing or verbally request a public hearing. If the applicant does that, then you have to schedule a public hearing. So the way it's structured on the agenda right now, it was a motion to set a public hearing for January 23rd. So that's what's been removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, so approval we are approving, the question for us is to approve a public hearing for the next meeting. Or vote to deny. Vote to deny the public
The way it
hearing.
would work,
At which point?
again, the motion to set the public hearing for January 23rd, if that motion fails, then someone can make another motion to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation of denial.
Right, what we're voting on is to set the public hearing. That's a yes vote is setting the public hearing.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
Yes.
Because that's a church, right?
Correct.
So, out of curiosity, what brought up any of the change from their perspective to go from R1 to neighborhood commercial for a church?
So by case law, churches are allowed in any zoning district. They're basically exempt from zoning. So it doesn't really matter to them, what property is, what their zoning is, as long as they're a church. But this particular church is going to move or vacate the premises, and so they need to, they want to sell the property, put it on the market. It obviously wasn't built for a single-family dwelling. It would probably be a little difficult to sell that as a single-family dwelling. So they were looking to see what else they could market it for. Not a manufacturing district. Multifamily would probably bring out a lot of the same concerns that we saw for commercial. So they're requesting NC, which is the least intensive commercial district. Yes, there's other areas in the city where we've had former churches that have been rezoned to NC. For this particular request, I'm sure some of the folks are here, but they'll get their opportunity if you set a public hearing. But some of it was traffic. Marcia K Drive is known as a cut through. So the thought was, if it gets rezoned to commercial, that's just going to exacerbate that situation. Some residents had concern about the existing commercial developments. This is right near Kings Highway. By State Oil, has a lot of lights that cause light pollution onto some of those residential properties behind it. So they really don't want to see any more commercial development because they don't want the potential for more adverse impacts to their properties.
I was a little surprised to realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but under the R1 zoning, there are still a number of things permitted, correct? Aside from a house.
Right.
I'm reading the list correct.
Especially
Recreational
Police and
facilities.
fire stations. Yeah.
Police and fire,
Yeah.
schools, obviously churches, correct? I mean,
Right.
yeah. Kind of, so you would maybe characterize it as very light commercial type.
Some of those uses could have the same effects as commercial development.
Yep.
Yes.
But obviously, changing the zoning to neighborhood commercial heightens the ability for commercial,
Yeah.
larger commercial.
One of the advantages of the NC district is that there are safeguards. For example, restrictions on building square footage. There's architectural design requirements to make sure that it's, compatible with the surrounding neighborhood in terms of its character. So that's kind of unique to this district and the CBD. That's really the only two districts that have any type of design review for, new buildings or building additions.
Mhm. Can you share a little bit about, or if there is a representative from the Planning and Zoning Committee, why it is there was unanimous, dissent?
I really don't recall much discussion about it. It was just, basically everybody that spoke for it, other than the applicant, really, voiced some concerns about it. So the applicant is here this evening, but there was just, several of the same concerns that were brought up, and that was pretty much what they heard. So they really I didn't hear any commission members actually go into an explanation as to why they were voting the way they voted. That just, they heard them and then voted.
I would like to say, just because, this is in my ward, and so I have heard about this from a number of constituents. And so I had advised them that this was just to go through the process and have a public hearing so that we could hear their input, just like they had the public hearing for planning and zoning. So if they had the concerns, if they had a heightened opinion, they could come on the 23rd. And so I advised them to do that, and some of them weren't able to make it tonight, and I said, no worries. So a public apology to them, because I didn't know we'd be discussing it right now. But I would actually, because of that, I would encourage us, I guess, to consider having the hearing so that we can hear that public input of the people around there, and not have, Ryan convey it to us, and we could hear firsthand from them, unless there's just a very strong opinion on the council that we should just accept the planning and zoning as is and deny the request. But
I agree with you. I think that makes sense to.
Yeah.
Well, and if
allow
we
people to
voted
come.
that down, the applicant has the ability to still request the public hearing
yes,
on the.
And
But we
he's here
could
and he's
also
prepared to do that.
Vote
Okay.
to set a public hearing.
but my understanding is there's 4 to 5 of the neighbors, neighboring property owners that showed up at property, or at planning and zoning and spoke in dissent of it, and they have strong opinions, and so I would like to hear firsthand from them, myself, or I have, but I'd like everybody to hear firsthand from them, so.
It sounds like we will do that regardless of how this vote goes tonight. There will be there will be a public hearing at our next.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak to this matter? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and state your name and address. And you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Les Lindy. I live at 2528 Marcia K Drive. Been there for 70 years. I have concerns about what goes on next door to me. When they built the adjacent building that he's in now, they pushed water down upon our property and it floods onto my property. And I have concerns about what goes in there. And I also have street concerns. Can I approach the bench? I have a photograph I'd like for you to
Do
see.
you want to share something with the whole council?
Yeah, I want
Okay.
each council member to see it.
Why don't you can give it to Ms. Randall there and, oh, it's on your phone.
Yeah,
I see.
I'm sorry. That's
Okay.
the only way I gotta take pictures.
Okay, okay.
This is Marcia K Drive. This is what the street looks like now, and it's getting worse. We go with more traffic, it's gonna get worse again. And I'm sure the city does not want to tear up a street and repave it for, a concern like that.
Looks like a lot of our streets.
It's bad. You know how bad it is.
Yep. Oh, I know. It's in there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'm in his big truck. Yeah. Nope.
But anyway, that's one of my concerns. It's more traffic. Police, fire, ambulance, tractor trailer trucks, dump trucks full of stuff travel up and down that street to avoid the stoplight. If we make that available to other traffic inducements, it's just going to make it worse. And that's one of my concerns. Being a lifelong resident there, my family was there in 1953. And in March, I'll be 70, so I'll be 70 years at that household. But my concern is if another developer comes in there and takes a hold of it, what are they, I have water issues already. I don't need more. The only way I can stop it is to build a new wall. There is a little bit of a concrete wall between us, but it's not big enough. That's my concerns. I'm protecting my property. I have nothing against the gentleman himself, but I need to protect my interests because I don't plan on moving. They're going to carry me out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else from the audience who wishes to speak?
I got something to say. This is what I'm hearing, basically. I'm hearing,
Can you share your name and
Andrew
address, please?
Strowski, 131 Winterfield Circle, Cape Girardeau. I'm hearing just two different issues. I was at the zone planning commission meeting too. I'm hearing two different sides where neither side wants to meet halfway. That's what I'm hearing. I'm thinking if it's a church there with parking lot, why not zone it commercial residential? But the business has to be in the church and you can't knock it down and replace it with something. That's what I'm hearing. And maybe putting restrictions on what commercial you could put in there. Because I'm just hearing two different sides and no middle ground.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Then?
I'm the applicant. You may not want me to say anything.
All are welcome, sir. If you would like to say something, please do.
Appreciate the time. Jeff Gibson, 2530 Marcia K is the property that we're discussing. And our request is really tonight is for the public hearing to consider the new zoning for the piece of property. The church that is moving out. We've merged the church with another assembly. So the only option that we have right now from a real R1 scenario is to sell it to another church. That's pretty limiting in this particular time. Churches are not really starting up and building, and it's a relatively, in comparison to a lot of churches, it would be a relatively small building. So I'm just looking for additional options to be able to protect the value of the property that is there. Certainly is not conducive to an R1 situation. We're not going to sell that to a single resident. So we're really locked in. If it stays the way it is right now, then we don't have very many options in terms of what we do with the property. So I appreciate the time, and hopefully we can schedule that public hearing to discuss it further. Thank you. Appreciate you folks.
Thank you. Okay, council, let's see. We now are at the point where we would vote to approve setting a public hearing on the request to rezone the property at 2530 Marcia K Drive from R1 to Neighborhood Commercial District. Is there a second? Motion. Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Guard.
Yeah. I
Mr.
was gonna
Thomas.
say it.
Discussion, council.
I agree with what Nate said. I think, yeah, there's a lot of concern by residents. I think the thing to do is to hold the public hearing, give everybody a chance to say their piece and everything. And so, particularly since, as Ryan pointed out, he didn't feel like P&Z had given a lot of reasoning regarding why they voted not to approve it. So I think it's good to hear from everybody, so.
And from what it sounds like from Mr. Gibson, we're going to have a hearing anyway, even if we vote this down. So, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor then of setting that public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries. There will be a public hearing then at the next meeting, and the full process, by the way, of the agenda items. We now move on to new ordinances. As always, I will read the bill. We will have a staff member speak to the issue. And at that point, just as we just saw, members of the public will have up to 3 minutes to speak to the issue as well. First, we have Bill number 2301, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at 2854 Cape LaCroix Road in the City and County of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from R1 to R3. It's the first reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
So you heard from Mr. Ferguson regarding their intentions for the property. They're requesting rezoning from R1 to R4 in order to develop it for an apartment complex. That's pretty much it. Staff report points out that there's R4 zoning across the street and also further up north. And you have multifamily uses in the area. The adjacent property at the corner is an industrial park, but it's separated by a creek. So that would be kind of a logical dividing boundary if you were to establish, different zoning district on that property.
Can I ask staff, is it possible to pull up the map at this time? Ms. Brennan, do you? Sorry? Oh,
She's doing it.
sorry, I'm not sure who was. Sorry.
While they're doing that, Ryan, whenever you have issues like this, especially since that's not a city road there,
Right.
are there any conversations with MoDOT about some of the issues that the resident brought up? I've never, when we start getting
Mhm.
out towards our boundaries. I
Right.
can see where that's a little
Right.
bit more difficult.
That section is actually maintained by Cape Special Road District. We've got another rezoning. It's actually going to be an annexation and zoning it to R4 that'll be coming for Planning and Zoning Commission this week, and then it'll come to you later on. We have had past discussions with Cape Special Road District about, zoning and development along there. Essentially, they maintain what they've got there. They don't do any improvements for, future development. So, but we make them aware of the items as they come through. And if they have any concerns, they can relay that to us. But generally, their position is we maintain what we've got. We're not going to provide anything else for development.
So they're not, Cape Special Road District's not going to do a traffic study.
Right, and they're not going to widen the roads or anything. Now, further south, you get down to the roundabout, then you're getting into MoDOT, territory there, and.
Yeah.
You
And
guys
it's-
know where the boundary starts for Cape Special Road?
And is it Boughton?
It's somewhere around Boughton Drive.
And it's just Route W, or does it include Boughton?
Yeah, that's Route W, and then it branches off to Boughton Drive and then continues on as County Road 620. So I think somewhere in that area is where Cape Special Road District picks up, probably where the name changes to County Road 620. So,
On this map, is there any city road?
Boughton Drive is a city street.
Is a city street?
Of course,
Okay.
the Wintergreen and Perry Drive, and then Cape LaCroix Road. Again, it's somewhere around that intersection, I believe, is where Cape Special Road District picks up.
Heading basically to the top of the
North
map.
of Boughton Drive, I believe, but I'd need to verify that with the other staff.
Mhm. Can you speak to the concerns brought up earlier by Ms. Walker regarding, the process? Because I remember a couple of years ago, another development issue came up and it involved different ownership of roads and what was the timeline going to be if traffic problems happened and this and that. And as I recall, the answer there was kind of you have to wait and see and then deal with things as they come up. But anyway, could you speak?
Well,
to that?
traffic is certainly one consideration for you, when looking at a rezoning request. Generally, we don't require developers to make traffic improvements if you've got an existing street serving a property, unless they want to do a decel lane or something like that. But generally, that's not something that the city requires. They are allowed to have access to the public street. They're allowed to have a certain number of driveways. There's a formula, I think, if it's multifamily, they're allowed to have one driveway per X number of feet of frontage. And those, of course, have to meet city standards for driveway width and sight distance and, separation from an intersection and things like that, so.
Mhm. But generally, maybe this question is too vague, how does the city planning approach the issue of, hey, there's a lot of new development now in this area? Is it just kind of wait and see what happens and deal with the complaints, or does it speak to the formula that you mentioned in terms of knowing added cars?
We haven't done any traffic studies, as far as I know, in this particular area, but generally, with multifamily development, not everybody's coming and going at the same time. It's a common perception. You've got a lot of units, you're thinking it's going to be a lot of traffic all at the same time, but that does tend to be dispersed. There's a little bit of peak traffic during, work and school and things like that, but overall throughout the day, generally traffic tends to be dispersed. And if they do have access on both Boughton and Cape LaCroix Road, they have a couple different ways in and out of the development.
Is there anyone else from the audience who wishes to speak to this issue? All right. Council then, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-01? Mr. Guard?
Second.
Mr. Thomas? All right. Council, any other questions or concerns? All right. Hearing none, then all those in favor of Bill number 23-01, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Let's see, we next have Bill 23-02, an ordinance imposing a sales tax at a rate of 3% on all tangible personal property retail sales of adult use marijuana sold in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and providing for the submission of the proposal authorizing such tax to the qualified voters of the city at the general municipal election to be held on April 4th, 2023, and directing the city clerk to provide notice of said election. This is the first reading. Mr. Pulley, would you please help us make sense of this?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Dr. Haskin. This ordinance would allow the city to impose a 3% taxation on all tangible personal property retail sales of adult use marijuana. This would be on the ballot for April 4th, 2023. Have any questions?
Is there anyone from the audience who wishes to speak or ask questions or share concerns? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Ms. Patterson, would you like to, you will need to come to the podium, please. Yes.
My question, I don't know if you addressed it, but I want to know what would the sales tax be used for?
Okay. Maybe you should just stay there, Mr. Pulley. I'm thinking there's going to be a few more questions. Go ahead.
Mayor, may I read the ordinance portion of it?
Yes.
Okay. Not more than 1/4 of the monies collected by the city of Cape Girardeau from the tax shall be fund the police department subject to appropriation by the Cape Girardeau City Council for mental health and drug treatment and prevention. The police department may partner and provide grants to non-for-profit organizations for mental health and drug addiction treatment programs certified by the Missouri Department of Mental Health located in the city of Cape Girardeau.
So I think to get even more specific to your question, the 3% sales tax that we are discussing putting up for election to the city in city voters in April would be an additional sales tax on top of the retail sales tax already that these products will be charged. An additional marijuana sales tax, which would go to the city general fund. And what the language here that we're discussing tonight is whether A, we want to impose such an additional tax of up to 3%. That's what the amendment passed last year by the state does allow, but we have to vote on it. So A, we're deciding that. And then B, we're deciding if we as a city want to specify up to 1/4 of that 3% to go to drug and addiction-related programs in our city, as certified by the Missouri Department of Mental Health. So those two things are up for debate right now. Does anyone else? Yes, if you would please come to and state your name.
My name's Mary, right? I'm just questioning, what would the other percent be used for?
Just like any of our general sales tax fund, which would.
It does everything in general fund from streets, infrastructure, pay to our employees.
Right.
City.
Could it be taken into consideration that maybe instead of a substance abuse, because I am an ex-user and I've been clean for quite a while, we need something in this town for people that are homeless, not people that have a substance abuse problem, because you aren't going to get clean unless you want to get clean. So spending all this money on people who are just going to keep reusing and reusing isn't going to fix a problem there. That's just my own personal opinion. I just want to put that out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else from the public care to share questions or concerns?
My statement would be.
Can you state your name, please?
Ramona, new, it's Bailey. But my concern would, not concern, but my statement would be, I would be in favor of the 3% if the monies were used for something towards the homeless in this city. But I would do everything in my power to vote it down if y'all would try to use monies for anything else.
That's all.
That's all? All right. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak? Ask a question.
Okay.
Can you state your name again, please?
Andrew Strassi, 131 Winterfield Circle. Okay, I'm just wondering, when I left this place in 1999 and came, there was no homeless problem. So what's drawing the homeless to Cape now?
They're not drawn, they already live here. They live here.
They do?
Let's, I tell you what, the person at the podium, has their opportunity to speak.
I'm just, I mean, I talked to some people in the community and they said because there's more resources there, but that's just a question I have.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the public wish to speak? Yes, sir. If you would, please state your name and address.
My name is Walter Austin Jr. I live at 1240 Linden Street Apartments. We talking about the drugs and the homeless, right? Okay, a long time ago, I heard and saw on KFS 12, y'all took the boxcars to build home for the homeless. What went down with that? Whatever happened with that? I see someone else living there when I pass by and everything, and it's not the homeless.
Sir, I don't personally know what you're referring to. If you'll leave your information with our city clerk, Ms. Conrad, I can get back to you tomorrow and try to find out an answer to that question.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is David Atkins. I live at 133 East Cape Rock Drive in Cape Girardeau. Just a clarification. The sales tax would be on, because when they passed the medical use, people were also allowed to grow a certain amount for themselves for personal use. Am I correct in assuming that this is people who are growing marijuana and then selling it?
This is for any retail purchase.
They would not tax anything that you grew.
Right, well,
Anything,
I would, because I was
anything that
wondering.
the city collects currently a sales tax
Mhm.
for. This product, a recreational marijuana product, then will generate a regular sales tax collection from the city.
And that's the only good thing about it. Personal opinion.
The debate then is what the amendment passed last year allows cities to do is to add an additional 3%
I see.
sales
Okay,
tax
okay.
collection
I
as
wanted a
marijuana
little
tax.
clarification on that. I didn't know if there were, because I know that there are people who will be growing their own, as they always have.
That
And
is
I didn't know if they were
up
going
to them to report.
All right, thank you.
Individuals need to deal with their own retail issues as per the law. I hesitate to ask, but is there any other comment or concern?
Mayor, I would like to make a motion.
Okay. Yes, council, is there a motion to approve this and get it on the table? Mr. Guard, Mr. Thomas. Okay, council. So, somebody who's got questions? Ms. Truxell.
Thank you. I have several questions. One is in the ordinance as written, it states that these funds or the sales tax collected will fund the police department for mental health and drug treatment and prevention. My question is.
I'm sorry, can you state where that?
Oh, for the question presented to sorry, not one more than a quarter. My question is about what capacity is the police department distributing Or I
looking
would
at
say,
the right-
what is the police department doing exactly for the mental health? I mean, as it's written here, it makes it sound like the police department is being funded to, in the question. Yeah, I'm talking about the question that will be put to the
I'm so
voters.
sorry, I haven't seen that language. I
I
was
think
looking
I
at older.
I have a
Forgive me.
concern about the way the ballot language is written.
Okay,
Let's,
if I may, let me state
Okay.
again, because I'm sorry, I didn't catch that earlier. I was looking at an older version. The question do we have it? Oh, yes. I should. Ms. Brennan, can you put the language of the ballot question up on the, oh, Gail's doing it again. Why do I? I'm sorry. You got a big monitor back there. I keep thinking it's you. Ms. Conrad, thank you. If you could, just so we can all make sure we're looking at the right. The question she's asking, not more than 1/4 of the monies collected by the city from this tax shall fund the police department, subject to appropriation by the council for mental health and drug treatment and prevention. The police department may partner and provide grants to nonprofit, not-for-profit organizations for mental health and drug addiction treatments certified by the Missouri Department of Mental Health. Okay. Forgive me.
Right.
Please restate your.
so my question is, we have some plans already in the mix of how to, I guess we had we have a counselor now, contracted counselor that's going out into the community that's assisting with the police department. Are we trying to fund that contracted service to assist individuals that way? Or are we going to create a new program to assist members in the community? I would like to know I would like to know what the plan is with the amount of money. We've already estimated how much money this will bring in. And I was just curious as to what the idea was, either from Chief or Dr. Haskin, of how the police department is going to implement assisting community members that have drug addiction and other issues. So
I think, quite frankly, the way that this is supposed to work, or the way it should work, is the police department would partner with these agencies that are certified through the state of Missouri to provide these services.
we have some local nonprofits that,
Can we ask Chief Blair, can we put you on the spot for a moment and speak to, I bet you can handle it. I'm confident. Just pertaining to Ms. Truxell's question.
So certainly, so one of the things with the mental health co-responder that you were talking about is that is actually just a grant that will only fund us for a couple of years. So beyond that, should we not get additional grants, that program would probably go away.
what, if you don't mind me asking, what is the funding that you're receiving to cover that?
So is it in dollar amount
Yes.
terms? That I am not sure. The funding goes to Community Counseling Center. And they're the ones who are providing the services with our officers as co-responders.
Okay.
Can I ask one other question coming off of that? In my mind, the police department works fairly closely on a daily basis with some of these organizations in terms of when perhaps you pick up people on the streets who you realize aren't committing a crime, but now actually are in the throes of a substance abuse problem or something.
Yes, we work with multiple nonprofits in our community, whether it's trying to get people to services that we find on the street that may be homeless and trying to connect them with services, or that have drug issues and try to connect them with services. And then obviously we're very robust in our mental health program and working with some of our nonprofit partners there to get those people into services instead of into jail.
I have a concern.
I think Ms. Truxell had one. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I cut her off. So
I don't know if now's the time to have this whole discussion or not, but you all know that I've tried repeatedly to address some of the blazing concerns that we have in our community with regard to homelessness, and we know that that ties very directly into drug abuse and addiction. What we're doing is putting a sales tax on a substance that is for recreation. We have individuals in the community that require aid that aren't getting it right now. And we don't have to have this conversation. I just want to put it out there to council that I really do think that we have an opportunity to set aside using these funds to help with our homeless citizens.
Do you
Whether
think
that
the
be
wording here would negate that?
No, but I just want to put it out there on the record. I mean, that we could, with these funds, have an opportunity to place individuals during either emergency weather, whether extreme cold or hot, into hotel rooms when the resources don't exist with our partners. So I just want to put that out there to council, that we have an opportunity to address it again. And I would hope that we move forward on that.
I kind of want to make note, we talk about the drug problem, but the big thing being proactive is mental health. My organization, Porch, we talk about housing, but one of the most components is wellness and well-being. So most of the time you can't sustain a home if you mentally don't have the capacity to do so, and having, and so I think it's important, which I like the approach, if we partner with organizations that show that they have the expertise to be able to provide the services for mental health, being proactive, and some of the drug treatment. I think it would assist in some of the housing component, because people go to the solution, but there's many processes before you even get to the solution of even getting a home and being in that capacity of working with that and different partners. I think it's important that as we are a city and we work with the city and the police department is part of that, that is strengthened within the city to be able to do those things in our capacity and support our community. So I understand the language. The
Does that
language
mean you
reads
like
that.
this language, or?
The language reads, yeah, I'm going to partner with these organizations for mental health and drug treatment. So that's just, but I see this language all the time. So like Shannon said, when I go to the ballot, sometimes you got to read it a couple times and you may not get it. So I can understand that too with certain people. I'm just saying sometimes I understand it because I see the wording often, but I think being conscious of the consideration of making sure they understand the language if they want to vote or not vote on it.
And I would also argue, I mean, why just a quarter? I mean, is that the number that was decided by staff that would be appropriate? Or are we basing that on other cities our size, or,
I will tell you, as someone, if you look statewide, at people that are putting municipalities and different electoral jurisdictions that are putting this on the ballot, they're putting it as just a 3% tax. There's no specification. So I think this is saying a lot, that we're putting in front of our voters, that we are specifically dedicating at least a quarter of it to this purpose. And there's no limitations on the rest of it to be used within the general fund for any sort of creative programming that we may want to address this problem. So this is just specific.
This says not more than a quarter
For
percent.
this purpose,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
just specifically, but the general fund can be used at any time within the parameters of the general fund.
And we
for that,
know what
yeah.
happens when things go into the general fund.
So
So I'm not trying to argue with me. I'm just saying that this is additional revenue that we would never have expected that we were going to have an opportunity to have, because no one, I don't think anyone up here believed this was going to pass. So this is just a bonus. The language as written, I'm not even sure if we need to put what a quarter percent in here in the ballot language. That I'm trying to, we would love for this to pass. And so that's part of the problem when we have a tax initiative, we don't have a good campaign to support it. Then we don't get the support from the voters because they see a number and they're having the same questions and concerns I'm saying, what about the other 2.75%? So do we really just need, do we even need to say a quarter? I mean, if you could just say that funds could go, or a portion of the funds can go. It doesn't have to say all, but do we really need to say a quarter of a percent?
I'll just address your one question, and that is that regardless, it's our responsibility between now and April, whatever the day, 7th, 4th, to educate, be sure we educate everyone on exactly what this is.
Right.
And why we're supporting why we're supporting, this vote, and why we think it's a good
Right.
thing. So that will come.
Mhm.
I mean, that's always our responsibility when we put something before the voters.
And I credit the the city for, we do very well when we have ballot language. We have a long history of getting these taxes passed because of the type of language that we're putting in here. So yes, we are being very forthcoming with what we want this fund to go to. My concern is, do we really need to say not more than 1/4%? Or is someone really saying that the people in our community that need this health aren't, or these programs are not worth more than 1/4% of aid? Does that make sense? I mean, we're only saying that only 1/4% of that 3% is worth the individuals that are struggling with these problems.
I don't think it reads that. It's just what the city able to do in their capacity, and that's why they partner with other organizations. This is just a portion of the money, but I don't think that determines the value. It's just the percentage as a city that we decide that if we decide that the police department will partner for that, but I don't think it's less of a value. We always had to put percentages on things as we move forward.
And I'm trying to sell it to the public. You have to sell it to the people that aren't in this room. You have to sell it to the people that are
Yeah,
struggling with.
We haven't had an opportunity to do that yet.
No,
That's all I'm
I
saying.
understand. That's why it's good to have a conversation about language, because language means everything. If it's not written in here, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's what we're doing right
So,
now. Mr. Bliss has been trying to ask a question in this regard.
Okay. I do have a concern with the question in that I don't mind that we fund the police department for mental health and drug treatment prevention, but I really don't see the need for the next sentence that we necessarily have to mention not-for-profit organizations per se, because if in fact the police department is going to use money for mental health and drug treatment and prevention, and subject to appropriation by the Cape Girardeau City Council anyway, then they could come and, say, hey, we want to partner with XYZ organization and do this. I mean, they're going to come with a plan anyway. So I'd like to keep the question as general as possible, just because I think that that could raise some other issues with other not-for-profit organizations who would then be coming to us saying, hey, we want you to fund this or that. And I think it can still be done without having to specifically say
I see
it.
what you're saying, but the line in there about certified by the Missouri Department of Mental Health located in the city of Cape Girardeau negates any other nonprofit that might be out there except for like 2 or 3 that are certified by the state. I get what you're saying, but the next sentence instantly negates any just random nonprofit coming.
Right,
to the city.
but for the sake of argument, say down the road, the city council and city decides that, hey, as Shannon has mentioned previously, maybe, and other reasons, that, hey, we might want to have some mental health experts employed by the city of Cape Girardeau, you would be able to utilize some of that money.
We can
for
always
that.
use our general fund for that as well.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know. It's like you're narrowing all the possibilities by just saying, okay, we're going to do this nonprofit.
If I could add just one point to that. I think I read the other day, and I don't know how current this statistic is, but I saw that within Cape County, there are over 750 nonprofits. I think the spirit of this was one to say that we do see a need and we do want to target it in this direction, but also to Robbie's point, to make sure that our police department and the city council are not inundated with hundreds of requests for this specific tax money. But again, I would say, any of those requests can happen in every annual budget process.
And so it may partner.
Yes.
Which means that they may not.
Correct? Mr. Gard, did you?
No, I read this and in the spirit of it, I talked to some of the owners in this segment and talked to them about what was proposed. The business owners seem to support. knowing that there is going to be funds directly to public safety or to the police for this, that it wasn't just a check being written. That it wasn't just a check being written to a nonprofit certified organization, knowing that it would put the onus on the Cape Girardeau PD to work with other groups and think outside the box for drug prevention and mental and quite frankly behavioral health in general. And so that's why I would support this language, and I'm glad we're doing it. And it's very important. Let me add, it's very important that we do get it on the ballot. That they can only be capped at 3% by the taxing entity. And I would not want for another taxing entity to get this on businesses inside the city limits of Cape, when we as a city should be receiving that tax.
Can I ask, and I don't know how to do this without a vote, but I guess I'm wondering, we're kind of talking about two different things, related but different. Are people comfortable with the idea of the 3%? Can I ask that without there being a vote? Do we need to hone in on the additional part, on the 1/4 possible, being specified?
I think we should do the 3% because you don't get it, you're not going to be able to
Okay.
go back on that.
I guess I'm asking, is anyone opposed to the 3% in general? Okay, so let's focus, I mean, we have been focusing, but more on the other question. On the other question, I'm trying to just figure out how to move this forward. Is there, I guess I would ask, is there anyone that wants to amend? What we have to do is settle the ballot language tonight. Because then at our next meeting is the second and third reading, and that is the deadline in order to get this on the April ballot. So is there an amendment that anyone wants to make to the ballot language? That's kind of where we are. Yes.
I just would hope that, I just would like to remove the 1/4, only because I feel like it's limiting. It's very limiting.
Remove that second paragraph of the question completely.
No, I think it's important that the ballot language include everything in here about that it's going towards our police department, it's going to mental health, drug treatment, and prevention.
Are you suggesting the entire 3%?
No, I just feel like if we say not more than 1/4 of the monies, I feel like we aren't going to get votes. Correct.
Do you have an amendment that you wish to make about the language?
Sure, I'll make a motion to amend to remove 1/4 of the monies elected. Maybe Greg can help with some language here, just put, proceeds, or however we have to put these tax.
Revenue collected by the City of Cape shall fund for the appropriate, for mental health. That reading to me makes it sound like that entire 3% would go.
Yeah.
That would.
I'm not proposing that we sell or something like that. I don't know if we should just say the general fund. With the distinction that we are at least one that will go towards the police department. When we go to, we have to appropriate the funds.
Okay. Yes. Oh, hang on. I just want to make, what's your language?
I'm asking for other, if anybody's working with the amendment of removing 1/4.
Okay, so your statement says what?
I move to remove the language stating 1/4 of monies collected or replace,
Okay.
funds from, or, let's see. I don't even know how to
Okay. You want to think about it for a sec?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Mark.
And this might be procedural. Can we approve this tonight minus that one whole paragraph. And then come back in the second and third reading and amend it and and by that time hopefully have the wording that everyone can agree on.
Mr. Young, is that a question we can direct throw in your general direction regarding the timing? In other words, if we approve the 3% part tonight for ballot language, only that part, only the first paragraph of the question, can we then come back in the second and third reading and make an amendment and have that in time for changed ballot language for the April ballot? I should write it down. Hang on, let's see if Mr. Young can answer this question for us.
Says, according to the charter, if the bill is amended in such a manner as to constitute a material change in substance, which I believe this would do, as determined by council, final action shall not be taken until a subsequent meeting at least 7 days after such amendment. And given that the effective date is immediate, then if we're going to amend it, it needs to be done tonight.
So the next meeting is the absolute last date that we can make any changes to the ballot language.
The amendment would need to be done tonight.
Yes, and because if we made any substantive ballot language change,
We would have to wait 7 days.
we'd have to wait 7 days, and that is too late.
Correct.
Okay, answers our question. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Trucks, yes. No, but thank you. Appreciate the energy.
In the second paragraph, remove not more than 1/4 of and the monies collected by the City of Cape Girardeau from this tax shall all or in part fund the police department. Keep the remaining
All or in part. There's an amendment proposed. Is there a second to that amendment?
Ms. Truxell, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what the exact amendment was.
Okay.
There you go.
Under the, sorry, my microphone went off. Keep the first paragraph as is. Second paragraph, remove not more than 1/4 of the. Keep monies collected by the City of Cape Girardeau from this tax shall all or in part fund the police department, keeping the remaining language.
So if I may, I believe your amendment is modifying the funding of the police department, but it still would be 100% of the tax would go to the police department, whether that would completely fund the police department.
Oh, so you need to general fund them. Okay.
I'm sorry?
So he's saying that even that
your-
amendment would.
Your language would result in 100% of the tax going to that purpose.
Okay.
The way
Do you wish to strike that?
Sure.
Shannon, okay.
Go ahead.
All right, back to square one. Is
Yeah,
there any
sorry.
other amendment being proposed?
No, I just would like to offer a move to admit as submitted, Mayor.
Well, I mean, lack of amendment. Let's vote. Correct. We're discussing and we're talking about if there are any amendments. All right, the question has been called then. And the vote is man, I've lost my vote to approve this Bill 2302, imposing the sales tax rate of 3%, and including the language as stated. Is that fair to say? I don't have to read all of this. That is the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We have one appointment tonight. We have had a resignation of Dan Presson from the Magnet Board, also known now as the SEMO Ready Board of Directors. That board wishes to have a representative from the City Council.
Make a motion to appoint Mayor Kinder to Smurray. Second.
Thank you. I do accept. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
I didn't get her application form.
You didn't appear.
I have been attending the meetings. Okay. We will now move into other business. We do have several people who have signed up, and I will say several people have already spoken pertaining to issues that were on the agenda, so I will not be calling them. I had one new item of business that I wanted to mention first. And that is, it was referenced by several people in different places earlier. We did several weeks ago have a state of emergency declared in our state by our governor regarding bad weather. We then saw that bad weather. In addition, seemed to have a trifecta of bad stuff happen in a public space, the Osage Center that was designated as a kind of a safe space, a warming center. That system blew. I still am not quite sure what happened, but anyway, it was not able to be used. And of course, a good chunk of our population lost power. And of course, we do acknowledge that Ameren worked very hard, very quickly, and got that issue taken care of, thankfully, before a full night happened. Nevertheless, very dangerous weather, coupled by even more circumstances that made the situation worse. I was, Dr. Haskin, as you know, in contact with you and a lot of other people regarding what was going on, what could be done, what is the city plan. Was told what we have typically been told, and that is that the city relies on our nonprofit partners, that we support them. I am not aware that any of that did happen in that instance. I've been informed that there were over 40 people who were put up in hotels for several nights. That number may be much higher. I'm not aware, but that was the last number I heard. And so the question of cold weather emergency sheltering seems to be one. It's been one that I've been asking our emergency planners in the city and the county to give some information to. It did not seem in that instance or in others that perhaps we have a plan. Imagining the situation perhaps had gone on one night or 3 nights, if we had unfortunately seen ice or a blizzard or something like that in the mix, or a larger power outage, one can imagine, the situation becoming much more dire. So what I'm asking, I'm bringing this up to ask the council if there's anyone that joins me in asking our staff to just do some research and some development, or at least get back to us with some information about what the situation is. And I assume many of you had questions from the public about what was the emergency plan. And that's what's spurring my question. Before we ask staff to dig into an issue, we typically like to have 3 council members to kind of be, supportive of that idea. And so that's what I'm bringing forward. Well, and we did, I think
And the thing is, when you have power out, and you don't have your TV on or your radio or whatever, you don't have the information unless it comes out, like through city staff, like on your phone or something, but.
Which loses power
Well,
throughout the day.
my phone is powered up, and I put it on, out of the car and all that, but, yeah. I do know an elderly couple that lives on my street went to a hotel. So I guess that's some of the people you were talking about. But, I don't have a generator at home, so it's it definitely was a concern when it got this cold, so. But anyway, I think it's something to look at. Of course, I also think, you know, it's an Ameren situation too.
Absolutely.
You know, I was told by a volunteer firefighter that they had to truck in another transformer and they didn't have one available here, which I would hope in the future that they would have a transformer available here. Maybe those are discussions we need to have with Ameren to see if they can be a little more redundant in the system than they have now.
That would be maybe a part of all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to them.
Shannon?
I guess,
Thank you, Robbie.
is your, oh, you were
No,
before
go
me.
ahead.
No, is your question more around what the if, like, what if it didn't get taken care of in 20 hours? I
Correct.
mean, because then you have a large number of households that are in danger of having pipes burst and damage and whatnot. Is that more like, okay, we have a taste, but what if it was not able to be addressed in that manner? I mean, that is a major concern. And
Well-
we do have the county controls our emergency management, you know, for the most part from a county-wide, their center and all that. But as a city, our role in that and how we're, yeah.
But
I'd be curious.
in terms of cold weather sheltering, I have been told by some in the, you know, in that world that even the county perhaps doesn't have they have all sorts of disaster plans, but perhaps not for this,
For weather.
for cold weather.
Correct.
I think our plan was, well, we're opening up our facilities as warming centers, but those are only open as long as our facilities are open. And, you know, if you know that bad weather's coming in the afternoon, we're going to send staff home fairly. And so there's kind of an emergency or disaster aspect that kicks in when our safe facilities for people are now being closed. And so I guess I perhaps heard enough support to ask Dr. Haskin for us to continue this conversation. Okay. All right. Thank you. Council, is there any other new business from you all? Other business? No. We do have several members of the public. Miss Nancy, I assume you got your, oh, no, I'm sorry. No. You were first up. Come on. Yep.
I'm Miss Nancy from 409 Franklin Avenue, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And I've been very interested in what you all have been saying tonight. Tonight, I'd like to focus on the homeless. And you've hit on it several times in what you've been talking about. And Mary Caston, who was a representative in the legislature, was a dear friend of mine. And she said that she had somebody come to her home 30 years ago and she gave them food because they were one of the first homeless that she had ever met in her life. And that was 30 years ago. So she went to Jefferson City, and others in their own districts had been met the homeless that were coming in about that time. So Mary got busy and designed a program which was grant funded by 2 or 3 or 5-year grants. And that's still going on today at the community partnership facility that is the old police station.
CPCMO.
The hub, right, in the back. And Calvin Garner told me that it was all grant funded. No city taxes, nothing. But it's also a warming center for the homeless. But the thing is, certain hours, 9 to 3, Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday, 9 to noon are the hours for letting the people come in to the homeless for warming. So I'm saying that there is a place we need to try to find for the homeless after hours. And maybe some cots can be provided for them to stay all night. And, but there's no place for them to go now after hours. And I've heard that, this is from TAG, the Almighty God, that Missouri has about between 125 and 150 homeless now at this time. So the homeless need a warming center to be open at night so they can stay all night in a safe environment and then asleep on cots provided by businesses or churches or organizations. And I have come to the city council meeting tonight in the hope that you will follow through with what Mary Caston started for the homeless after 30 years on Morgan Street. And now it's continuing in the South Sprigg Street, with the police station. And that's all that I have to say right now. We need the warming center for the homeless to be able to stay overnight in a safe location, especially over the weekends and holidays, whenever we have bad weather. I
Thank
just wanted
you.
to bring it to your attention.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. We next have Ms. Geneva Allen Patterson.
My name is Geneva Allen Patterson. I live at 510 Olive Street in Cape. To the mayor, city manager, and council members, also to everyone here. In Matthew 8:20 and Luke 28, it states that foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. God expects his people to help those who are homeless. Jesus could identify with the homeless because of his itinerant ministry. We are indeed thankful for the People's Shelter Ministry, which offers shelter for the homeless when the temps hit 32 degrees or lower or is predicted to hit 32 degrees or lower for at least 2 or more days. Over the Christmas holidays, we were blessed to provide housing for at least 10 rooms, and some of those rooms had more than one individual in the room. So we ended up paying for at least 10 rooms during that time period. Also know that street level and probably CPC paid for some rooms. In order to see how you can assist the People's Shelter Ministries, because I know the temps are projected to be low later this month and also next month, because I know we paid for rooms all the way through the end of February last year. But if you go on the People's Shelter website, we have our mailing address. We also have our Cash App information. I want you to never forget that service to mankind is service to God. And as we celebrate next week this time, the Martin Luther King holiday, we need to remember Martin Luther King's quote, "The time is always right to do what is right." Thank you.
Thank you for your time. We next have Mary Wright. Is Ms. Wright here? No? Okay. And then lastly, is Mary Wright here? Well, we'll move to the last name, Ms. Ramona Bailey. No, I'm sorry. Okay. All right.
My bad.
And I will just remind you and everyone, you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
And this is not a time where the council interacts or responds to your comments. So, but it's just a presentation for you.
I'm just gonna pull it up.
We have a dinger, don't you worry.
No, I mean, I was gonna pull up my little.
Oh, okay.
What I had to say. No, yeah, I mean, keep your dinger all you want, but hi, I'm Mary Wright. I live at 605 North Spanish Street, here in Cape. My issue is with rental inspection, which I would like to pass this around so everybody can kind of get a look at what I'm living in currently.
Okay.
If you don't mind. When you rent from someone, you shouldn't have to worry about a list of things: your privacy being invaded, your level of life being interrupted or even lost, your ability to maintain your hygiene, to cook a meal, to warm yourself when cold. You shouldn't have to worry about so many things that apparently can be taken from you in an instant. All of these things happened to me by my landlord, Tina McQuarrie. I was taken to court on December 23rd to be evicted from my home, despite the numerous illegal actions that my landlord had taken against me. Many of those actions were in direct violation of the city's actual rental codes. On August 30th, I contacted the City of Cape because my landlord had turned off my water to my unit in a way to force me to leave illegally so that she could move into the unit. It took until October 24th, after I had called the city manager's office that day, for someone to come and inspect my home. That's a lot of time. Despite it taking 2 months for someone to come out, I'm grateful that they did when I contacted the city again. But between August and October, things got worse for me and my partner. My landlord forcibly entered my home. She removed my front door. She took the bottom portions out of all my windows. She cut the wires to my fuse box and stole the switches. Not to mention, she also stole about $3,000 worth of my own personal belongings. And for what? I'm a tenant who has done everything that I was expected to and required to, yet I have been given no help. I've been ordered by the court to vacate my home, and the city took 2 months to send me a report for the inspection. Judge Kester wouldn't allow the own city inspector's report to be held in court. It was inadmissible. Why? Why would the city's own inspection be inadmissible to court? I'm not asking a question, I'm just, it's rhetorical.
It's good rhetorical. Yeah.
Why is it that you say there are laws to protect both renters and landlords? I'm a lifelong tenant of the city who has lived here my entire life, born and raised. I feel as though the place that I have resided since my birth, my hometown, the City of Cape, has not only failed me, but has neglected the needs of my human rights. And what's right with that? Oh, I did that.
Perfect timing. Thank you. Can we do you need that back?
It's the only copy I have.
Okay.
So, but I mean,
Okay.
I can come get another, but Brian Woody does have.
Okay. Ms. Wright, I have your contact information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, Ramona Bailey.
Hi, Ramona. I am here tonight to introduce you all to the new pastor of St. James African Methodist Episcopal Church. She is no stranger to this community. She moved here in 1994 with her husband, who was pastoring St. James African Methodist Episcopal Church at that time. She just got her pastoral ship on January 1st of this year by presiding elder Edmund E. Lowe, plug. And that is none other than Miss Geneva Allen Patterson.
Oh.
She is the new pastor of St. James and we are so excited.
Yeah.
She's already played that role kind of for the last well, I won't say year, but a couple years, but we are excited. It is official now. And I'm pretty sure if you need her or any of us at St. James, I think they told me I'm like her sidekick. So we are here in our city. We are looking forward to celebrating our 160th anniversary this year. There's a couple of members with us. Miss Deborah Braxton, a longtime citizen of our city. Of course, Debbie and my 2 sons are here tonight. But so she did our last prayer of the last city council meeting that we had. And I was like, maybe that was a premonition. Didn't know, but she is actually that now. So if you need her or St. James, just give us a call. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you. That concludes all of our business, except council now will move into closed session. And so we are adjourned with our regular session.
You need me to
We have
motion
to
to
have a
go into
vote
closed.
oh, forgive me. I thought we kind of handled that already. Is there a motion to move into closed session? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. We are now in closed session.
Motion needs to state why you're going in closed session.
Oh, sheesh. I've forgotten all my stuff. All right, the motion is to move into closed session. pursuant to discuss issues listed in revised statutes of Missouri, section 610-.021, including but not limited to those paragraphs 1 and 3. Mr. Young, is that, okay. So moved. Is there a second, Shannon? All in favor of moving into closed session now, officially? All right, we are in closed session. Forgive me.